I am Bjarni Forfair, and today we are talking about the Great Conversion from Norse pagan into Christianity, and this was all across Scandinavia and England. At the time, it would have been the biggest part of England it would have happened in is the Danelaw. So I'll just give you a quick show where I am. Check this location out. This is where the river mouth of the River Avon meets the Bristol Channel, and this is a hot point for all the Viking raids up and down here, and them using this slipstream for trading and whatnot. But I explain more than that in one of my other videos. So I really want to welcome the urban Norseman. What's going on, brother? And this is going to be a collaboration between the pair of us.
What's up, Bjarni? Yes, you have a wonderful view out there. But you're absolutely right. We have a massive and, quite frankly, a little bit of a sneaky part of history to share today.
So this conversion from Norse paganism to Christianity is massive. Not only is it the faith aspect of it, but most of it, from what I believe and from sources I've read, most of it is all about political. And like most things in life, is about power and money. It's a lot easier to get people to do things, and it's a lot easier to get everybody on board with anything you want if everyone's on the same team, religion-wise. And you've got to think as well, up to this point, religion was the main source of fighting, wars. Obviously, I understand many other things, aspects come into the reasons people fight, raid or whatever, but up to this point, it was the biggest divide of people. The pagans versus the Christ God and the nailed God worshippers. And then in the south, southern countries, you'd have the Muslims, or which we now know as the Muslims. So it's many aspects. It's a lot easier, like I said, to get everyone on board and believe the same thing if you're all batting for the same team. Anyway, should we dig into this? I'll just give you a glimpse again as what I'm looking at. Incredible views, utterly amazing. Do apologise for the wind. As you can imagine, this is a hot point and extremely windy. But yeah, so these points are important. So when the raids and all the height of the Viking stuff is just kicked off, so we're talking the 8th century, into the 800s, and then push it into the 900s, the Christians have really no chance. And the first dip we see is Guthrum leading the great Viking army. Now, among many other things that happened, but today we're on about the end. So once Guthrum had finished and he had lost the war and lost the big battle of Effingham. Sorry again, my pronunciation is terrible. If you guys are from the Urban Norseman subscribers and you're watching this, my pronunciation is terrible because of my strong southern English accent. Anyway, so because at this battle, once he had lost, then it was a massive turning point, because then as a turn of good faith maybe, and obviously as to keep the peace, Guthrum, and a part of his surrender, Guthrum was forced to be baptized and to change from pagan into Christian. Now this, I believe, is one of the main kickoffs, because then after this, it's not many years later, we're then into the 900s, 930s, which then we see the first bishops going into Scandinavia itself. So the heart of the pagan belief system and the pagan land. They send one. Germany sends a bishop into Scandinavia to build its first church. Small, yeah, and on the edge of things, but still, they have just got their foot in the door, which is massive. And yeah, then it's more of a gentle, it's not like a bang, we shut the door and the instant change. It's very slow and methodical. If you've seen any of my other videos, I've talked a little bit about, on some shorts and some long form content, about the conversion and about how important the conversion is, and about the Christians weren't that bothered really on the belief system. Like I said, it's about getting everyone on board. So, and because of that, they were just tweaking and changing their religion and their beliefs to suit the pagans a little bit, to make it easier transition, i.e. Christmas, i.e. Easter. Many of the current Christian celebrations come from pagan origins or are just straight out pagan, Norse pagan specifically. So it's interesting that, and a real sign that wasn't so much about the faith, it was a lot about this and a lot about control, political and geographical. Look, again, I do apologise again if the wind noise is terrible. I have got the mic on, lavalier mic on with the wind barrier, but the bloody wind is awful up here. But you cannot turn down such an amazing sight. In the distance here, we got the important bridge, the Wales Bridge that connects Bristol and England to Wales, the country, on the left. And then out into the distance, over that way, you won't be able to see it because it's a little bit foggy today, but out into the distance, we have Flatholme and Steepholme, which is two very, very, very small islands within the centre of the Bristol Channel, which were used as islands to have breaks on, to rest a few days before they would go inland to trade or raid. Because if you keep following this river, this connects so many of the major rivers within the country to this point. And this point, if you keep following it left, we keep going out, you go into the Irish Sea and then to Ireland, which obviously had massive connections to trade and whatnot. But we're not here to talk about it today. So back to the conversion. And like I said, it was a very slow conversion. And yeah, I'm going to pass you over now to the urban Norseman, see if he wants to add anything to the very slow and subtle transition to Christianity. I'll pass you over to the urban Norseman.
Absolutely right here, guys. The Norse didn't just suddenly put down everything that they know and then pick up a Bible. It was a slow, calculated transition. Bjarne just talked about trade and some of the restrictions that are involved. There's an incredible piece of history that backs this up. It's called the Prima Signatio, or the First Cross, because Christian Europeans eventually stopped agreeing to trade with the Norse. So the Norse would agree to go through with this First Cross. It's basically kind of like a pre-baptism. It meant they get the sign of the cross over them. And this appeased the Christians enough to allow them into the markets. But the Norse didn't give up Odin and Thor back home. It was the ultimate loophole to keep the silver flowing. And when we talk about this being a political power grab, again, Bjarne hit the nail on the head. Back in Scandinavia, ambitious chieftains realized that the Christian church offered something the pagan belief system didn't, and that was the centralized authority. If a Norse king wanted to unify Norway or Denmark, bringing Christianity was the ultimate tool. Look at King Harald Bluetooth of Denmark in the 960s. He raised a massive gelling stone, basically a giant billboard, proudly bragging that he had made the Danes Christian. Was it pure faith? Maybe. Or was it brilliant PR to secure his borders against the Roman Empire? Pour molten silver to cast both Christian crosses and Thor's hammer at the exact same time. Talk about hedging your bets. Blacksmiths were just business owners adapting to the market. If a newly baptized Christian walked into the shop, they sold him a cross. If a dyed-hard pagan walked in, they sold him a Mjolnir. Many Norse viewed Jesus as simply a powerful new god to add to their existing roster. If Thor protected you at sea, why not ask Christ to protect you in battle? It took centuries to fully weed out the old ways, and even today, the roots and the old gods are still buried deep within Scandinavian culture. Thanks again, Bjorn, for the excellent collaboration. I'm going to pass it back over to you to let you wrap this up.
So the conversion is super important because like I said, it's slow, it's gentle. People are a lot easier to take things on and to follow a belief system and to take anything, not just belief system, but anything, if change is slow, subtle. Do you know what I mean? We see this in government today, across all countries. The change is slow and subtle. And because of that, and the way that happened is, so if the Vikings went somewhere, if the Scandinavian people, the Norse, any of those people come along the English coast, say, England is important. If they come along to England specifically, say up north or down here, anywhere, if it has been somewhere they've been a few times, they may have stopped 10 years earlier and had babies there. And then when they had the children might have been with a Christian woman. And then that Christian woman, when she had her babies, might have brought her son up Christian. So now we've got a Norse baby or child. So he might be from Norway, Denmark, Sweden, wherever, or as far away as the Rus, but he is Christian. They've been brought up Christian because his dad's never here, his dad's at sea, or his dad doesn't see him, or whatever, because he was a Viking, or going a Viking. So it is super important because then, like I said, you've got somebody who is of Scandinavian origin, first generation, but is brought up a Christian. So then, when he then becomes older, and then he might become a trader, let's say a fur trader, he becomes a fur trader. And then if he's trading in furs, when the Vikings come along 20 years later, and he's now selling and trading furs at his dock, and the Norse come along, and they got no problem trading with this man because he is Norse. He speaks our language, he looks like them, or whatever. So then they got no problem trading with him. But now they're trading with a Christian. And this only got worse, because then when he had children and he had children, and it keeps going down the line, now they're no longer really Scandinavian. They got the blood, but they're Christians. So then they start saying things like, we won't trade with you unless you're Christian. So this is how we see the ever so slightly change and docking of Christianity and of the Christians taking over of the Norse pagan beliefs. And this happened not just within trade, this happened within marriages, but for all sorts of reasons. You cannot marry my daughter. So the same sort of thing will happen with the multi-generational thing, but then with marriages. You cannot marry my daughter, I will not marry my daughter to you if you're not Christian. Because you got to remember, these women that they might have married to, she might have been from a high status home and might have come with a lot of land or money. You don't know, so there's many reasons. Or they might have married for peace, if there's two tribes and they want to marry for peace, but we're not going to marry you if you don't actually go Christian. So then there's another key point to the story of which we want to talk about, the secret pagans. Now, for everything I've researched and I've read about, I truly believe that people were just signing the dotted line for said reason. And Guthrum, the leader of the great heathen army, might have been one of these people, because there's many burials where people have been buried with both a Christian cross and a Thor's hammer, or maybe a Gungnir spear, or something of like that, a pagan token, you might say. So it's super important for all of this, because you can see the very slow, the gradual kind of blanketing and taking over of Christianity versus the pagans. Now guys, I appreciate you for watching, and I'm sure the Urban Norseman says the same. We truly do appreciate it. If you've got any spare time and you'd like what you've seen today, please go to my channel, check out my stuff. I do a lot of stories, mythology and Viking true history, and also the Urban Norseman does the same. And if you are not subscribed to him and you come from mine, please go subscribe to him. Honestly guys, you will definitely not be disappointed. We're a little bit different in how we do things, but we're both of the same page, and do similar things, but he does it in a lot more higher quality, and his cinematics and the way he films it is spectacular. So go check them out if you haven't already. Otherwise, guys, I will catch you in the next one. Skull.
If any of these videos are any use to you and provide any value, how about checking out the last one? It's about hearing the vibrational pull of the gods.